Welcome to our podcast, No More Distractions. So I'm very happy that you wanted to talk about chronic stress with me because it's something that I think about every day. I'm stressed about different things every day and I try to cope with it. And I have my tools and mechanisms, but I know you might have something more to offer us.
Hope so.
I hope so as well. So I just want to hear a little bit about you, your educational background.
Sure.
And how you can create a safe space for your clients that come in and talk to you probably about a lot of different things.
Yes. All right. Fair enough. I'll start with my background. So I got my bachelor's in psych, bachelor's of science, which everyone jokes around and they're like, it's a BS degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
It means nothing. You get it. You can't do anything with it.
True.
So I got my bachelor's in psych, but I did learn something. And right away, I'll share something with you and the listeners that I think might be a nice life hack to have. One of my professors in undergrad, I was taking a positive psychology class, and he taught us that, so basically, we all have very, very busy schedules. And if something clears up in our schedule, like if someone cancels on us and it's like, oh, okay, someone canceled. Now I have a free 30 minutes to an hour. Let me fill that up with more productivity, right? What else can I get done in that 30 minutes to an hour? And what he taught us has stuck with me ever since he shared that. And so basically what he told us was if anyone ever cancels on you, something clears up in your schedule, use that time for what you want to do with it. Because it was time that you didn't think you had anyway. It was already time that you were dedicating to something else. So now it's just free time, right? So now you can use it basically, however you want to use it, it's your time. So rather than, and if you want to be productive, if that's really what you want to do, then do it. But if you're like, wow, I really just want to read my book, leisurely read, or I want to just go for a walk right now, do that. Because talking about chronic stress, those are the little moments that we can take back for our mental health, physical health, emotional health, all of that stuff. So
and do it with no regrets or thinking, okay, I could have been doing something else, right? Being totally present.
Fully, right. Like you chose that. Choose that with intention and then be present with it. So it was something that, although it was that BS degree, right? But that was something in positive psychology that just to this day, I use it myself where I'm like, all right, if a client cancels, I'm like, let me leave the office. I'll go for a walk rather than, just trying to get all of my notes done and all these documents done because that's always going to be there.
Right.
So it's let me take back my time, do something for me.
Yeah. That's a great life hack.
Yeah. Right?
That's a great reminder.
It was great.
Yeah.
So my professor in undergrad, I thank him for that.
We thank him.
If you're listening, thank you. But so that was my bachelor's. And then I actually took a gap year in between my bachelor's and my master's, and I traveled for 3 months, went backpacking.
Where'd you go?
Went to Philippines.
Wow.
Thailand. Yeah. Australia, Fiji. It was a beautiful trip.
Amazing.
So I'm
They're
glad
all
I did
very
it.
unique places.
Yeah, quit my job, and I was like, okay, before I have to work for the rest of my life, this is what I'm going to do.
Amazing.
So yes, I went with my fiance. Well, now he's my fiance, but at the time was my boyfriend. So we did that. It was great. So I took that year off, traveled, and actually that same professor that I just spoke about suggested that I do that. So he really made an impact on my life.
He did.
Clearly.
Wow.
And it was one
we
of
have
the
to
most
send him this episode when
I
we're
think
done. We
you're
have to. We have to dedicate it to him.
I think you're right. Yeah. Some of the most memorable things in my life. And
I love it.
oh my gosh. But yes. So then I went on to get my master's degree. I got it in social work. But the type of social work that I do is different than what people expect, because I'm more of the clinical part of social work, which is psychotherapy. You know, it's working with individuals, couples, it could be families, adolescents. It's really working with, I feel like I work with all populations, but it's psychotherapy based. Yeah, there are so many different paths to take in social work, but I stuck with the clinical route. So yeah, been doing that. Love that. Love doing it. And I also have I went on to get my yoga training, my yoga license.
Right.
So yeah.
And for your yoga training, did you focus on any like different types of yoga? Did you just do the general like 200
it was
hour?
200 hour. It was like hatha vinyasa based. And now I'm actually in the middle of doing my 500 hour.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Where are you going to do that?
It's actually online, which is you do it at your own time.
Nice.
Yeah, self-paced. There's no limit. I could take as long as I want.
Wow.
And like
I
was
like that.
I'm in. So that's what I'm doing now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you use anything from your yoga practice with your clients?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like all of the philosophy, it intertwines. I feel like a lot of therapeutic interventions are also like yoga philosophies. Like, and I'll give you one example. All right, there's something in yoga called ahimsa, right? And that means non-violence, non-harming, right? So not only not harming others or the planet, or, you know, you're not harming yourself, right? And in therapy, we always talk about, you know, reducing your negative self-talk. Like, like you don't want to harm yourself. You don't want to judge yourself. You don't want to criticize yourself. And so I just feel like the philosophies and the therapeutic interventions, they just like, I find that they cross over so much. And I'm like, wow, like this is so much more spiritual than people think it is.
Yeah, and you really practice yoga off the mat by using it this way.
Yeah.
Which is
So
kind
the
of what
clients
we're
might
doing.
not know that, but I know that.
It's your little secret.
They could tell me that they're not spiritual, but we're in a spiritual practice.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah, so that's
awesome.
Cool. But yeah. And then to answer your question about how you provide a safe space for them, it's really just having a space that is non-judgmental. They could walk into that room knowing that they're welcomed, that they're loved, no matter what. There's this, I feel like I cultivate more of a sense of like radical compassion, you know, where it's like, you can tell me whatever it is you need to tell me and there's going to be no judgment. Because I think when you show someone that in a relationship, they could start to see it in themselves. You know, because a lot of people judge themselves, criticize themselves. I'm one of them.
We're the worst critics of ourselves. Yeah.
So it's like, but when someone shows up weekly for you, you know, like just listening to you, not like throwing their opinions at you, like when you really think about it, a therapeutic relationship is like the most ideal relationship that you could ever be in. It's like, it's so vulnerable, right? But like, you're not being criticized, you're not being judged. All of your worst fears are like not, you know, like your therapist, it's very unlikely that your therapist is going to reject you, you know? So it's like you could work on all of your fears in the therapy room.
Yeah, you're not afraid of losing like a friend if you say something wrong or...
Right, so it's like you actually, if you do say something wrong, you work through it. And I'm still going to show up for you the next week. You know? So it's like, it's this nice space of this unconditional love, radical compassion, and just like non-judgment.
Awesome.
You know? Yeah.
I want to get into the topic, but before I do, I wanted to ask you, what are like the main topics that most of your clients come to you and talk to you about recently? Like, has there been a pattern that you're like, wow, a lot of people have been struggling with that recently?
Yeah. It's weird. I feel like week by week there are usually themes like that happen. It's very weird. But this past week, I do feel like I've been talking a lot with my clients about recognizing just the nature of their thoughts, basically recognizing when you're not present. Right? Like, like if you and I are having this conversation right now and I'm thinking about what I have to do when I go home or my day tomorrow, I basically have been working with people to just recognize that you're drifting off, right? And we label that as just thinking. We're just thinking. And then you just come back to what you're doing, right? So that's a cognitive behavioral therapy technique and like mindfulness strategy.
Right.
So I feel like that's what's been coming up a lot this week is recognizing that we're having anxious thoughts, right? Recognizing that we're having future-oriented thoughts or past-oriented thoughts and returning back to the present moment, right? Because in the present moment, there's nothing bad happening to us.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I feel like I've been doing a lot of work with practicing with people to have them come back to the present.
Realize what is happening,
right,
and
to
not
recognize,
just totally letting it happen.
Right, because if you don't recognize it, if you don't have the awareness, then there's really no room or opportunity for a transition or a change.
Right.
Right, so the awareness is key. So yeah, that's, I feel like, the theme this past week has been like trying to increase self-awareness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I was just
thank you for
curious.
asking.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So we've been using the phrase, I am busy, a lot. It's something that we respond to when a friend asks, you want to do something, let's get out for a walk, let's go on a trip or whatever. Oh, I'm busy, I have all those things to do. But it almost sounds like it's a cool thing. It's a cool response. Like, oh yeah, I've had a really busy week. But like, I feel like somehow inside of us, we feel good about it.
Yeah.
And... But also we complain about it. So it's like very confusing and I don't get it. And I've definitely been a victim of it. I'm not going to take myself out of it. But I want to analyze that a little bit because it seems like it's a trend. And obviously everything is really fast paced, especially in the area we're living in. And I get it. But I feel like sometimes we have to prioritize certain things. And although we're busy, we have to be present on those things or people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to hear your thoughts about that because like you said, our to-do list is never ending.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. All right. I feel like I have multiple things to say about that.
I know.
Yeah. So we definitely are living, I feel like, in a society right now where staying busy and productivity is like looked at as this great thing where it's like, oh, you're doing so many things, and that is great. Let's give credit where credit's due. That is great. But I do feel like in certain ways it's glorified and oh man, I don't even know where to go with this because I feel like there's so much to like.
I know. We're
talk
probably
about.
not going to be able to like analyze everything, but maybe let's pick like a couple of
yes.
patterns.
Yeah. So I think it's mostly glorified. I think social media has a really big thing to do with it.
Okay.
Because what goes on people's social media pages, it's the highlight reel of everyone's lives. It's all of the things that they are doing. It's like, oh wow, this, and yeah, what did I do on my way here? I posted on my story that I was coming to do a podcast with you. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh look, she's doing that, right? So we post all the things that we're doing. And so I think when everyone looks at that, right, when we look at everyone doing all of these things, we're like, oh, that must mean like you're worthy, right? Like you're important because you're doing all these things. So I think we attach productivity and staying busy with self-worth, when really, in my perspective, I'm like, what are you running from? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, what are you trying to stay distracted from that you're staying this busy? Or why do you need, right? Then it could be, you need validation from these external means, right? So it's like we stay busy because it makes us feel good, but it's like, what about your internal validation? Like, why is that not enough? And I think, these running to-do lists that we all have, right? We all have them. I just feel like the older you get, the more things that you have to add to your to-do list.
Yeah.
And so, we all have them, but then we get stuck in this mindset of, if I finish this to-do list, then I will be able to relax, right? Like, then I will feel better. Or like, when I do this, right? When I accomplish this, then I will be so happy in it. Like, everything will be so great. It's like, but now, you're letting your worth rely on these external means.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than just knowing from the start, you've been worthy the entire time.
Right.
Right? Like, you're already whole. You're already worthy. But I think we just seek all of these like external means of validation.
Yeah.
And, and I think staying busy is like an example of that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think even a way to, I don't know, maybe like hack that, right? Like a little life skill, is focus on what you already have done, right? Like even like my own clients, there's this one client, and she's young, and she talks about constantly how she just feels like she's just existing. Like, she's just existing. She doesn't feel like anything she's doing is like good enough, where it's like she'll do something, work out or finish, a project, and she'll always criticize it or be like, oh, it could have been better. It could have been, and we kind of had this like crazy breakthrough where both of our brains kind of like broke, because we were like, oh my gosh. And we basically had this breakthrough where we realized that she felt like she was only just existing.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't letting herself appreciate the things that she was actually doing. Right? So if she did accomplish something, she didn't even
congratulate herself.
Like,
it was like, let's go to the next thing.
It was like, oh, it could have been better. Right? It was meaningless.
Yeah.
Like, she did it and it was meaningless.
Right.
And it was like, all right, just on to the next thing. Right? And it's like, well, no wonder why you feel like you're just existing, because all of the things that you're doing, you're telling yourself in a way that it's not meaningful.
Right.
Right? So how you like talk to yourself about the things you're doing, right? Like, it's important to focus on the things that you have already done. And that could simply mean, at the end of the day, rather than writing a to-do list, write a list of all the things that you did that day.
A little gratitude list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Appreciate all of the things that you actually got done that day. Right? And and then thank yourself for it. Right? Even if all you did that day was breathe, thank yourself for it. Right? Because you are a walking miracle just because you can breathe. You know what I mean? So, it's coming back to this notion that you're already whole, without all of this extra stuff.
I really like what you said, because this week I felt like I was in a similar place where I kept telling myself, oh, it's going to be so much better when this happens and that happens. And I feel like I am testing my patience in a way, because I'm waiting on things to develop. But then one morning I woke up and said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of like waiting for this thing to happen and affecting my mood and not be able to like be there.
Yes.
And I literally chose to woke up that day and say, I don't care. I'm just going to be happy today.
Yep.
And it was a great day.
Yeah.
It worked. Yeah. And it's just, it's amazing that you can literally flip the switch, right? That once you're aware, you make the choice.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes. The awareness is key,
Yeah.
and once you bring attention to something and you have that awareness, it invites this beautiful opportunity for transformation, right? Without the awareness, without bringing your attention to something, we're just on autopilot, you know? So it was nice, like, actually even hearing you say, like, you chose.
Right.
You, like, intentionally, right? Like, with purpose.
Yeah.
Chose that.
Right.
And then you had a great day.
Yeah. I know. I want to try that more now, because you just realize how powerful your mind is.
Yes.
And it's like, that's all you need. It's like you don't have to keep waiting for all these external things to happen.
Yes. And something like similar that I will talk to clients about is, you know, when you do have a to-do list, right? Because, you know, we do have to participate in society to some level, right? So we do we have to get things done.
Yes.
So when doing that to-do list, I feel like I don't know what goes on, but like our brain tells us, because we have a to-do list, we have to be stressed, right? Like we have to do it coming from a stressed place, right? So it's like, okay, the list is there anyway, right? So sit back, decide, right? Like you chose how you were going to tackle your day, right? Like, so I try to teach, or it's like, okay, this list exists no matter what. So it's like, do you want to accomplish this list and get it done in a calm and grounded way, or in that anxiety, fear-ridden, stressed place, right? And that's the choice that you have, right? So the list, maybe we don't have a choice over the list, right? Maybe we have responsibilities, right? But you have the choice to come at that list from a more calm and centered place, where we don't have to do these tasks stressed out, right? So it's you sit back, you take a moment to pause, you think about it, take some deep breaths, and then tackle whatever it is you have to tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, because it can be a little numbing sometimes when there's a lot going on. And I think everybody has been there. Yeah. And I guess the best reminder is, especially when you're the most busy, to actually take a break, meditate a little bit, ground yourself, because like you said, that to-do list will always be there. We cannot change that.
Yeah. And if you can, go for it, right? If you're like, I'm done with whatever it is I'm doing,
remove
then
it.
do it, right? Then just don't do it. You know, if you have that freedom, do it. You know, if it's something that really is like weighing on you. But yeah, for the most part, it's like, you have two roads to choose from. So it's like, take your breath, center yourself, and then you choose the path.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
And you did that.
I know.
Nice.
I know. I don't know what happened to me this
you
week.
You are a living example of it.
I woke up and I'm like, no. It's not that I actually, thought about it for too long, which is crazy. Like, the conversation I had with Charlie Sage last week was about like how you align your mind, body, and soul, and how like you can see certain things in your body when they happen and all of that stuff. And this week I was like, I don't know, I just don't feel very aligned, And just that morning I woke up and I'm like, no.
Yes, there you go. Right, it's noticing. That you're right. Your life right now is not aligned with how you want it to feel. So it's like, let me take a moment.
Exactly.
Realign myself.
Yeah. So exactly. I guess, I did it right.
Yeah. See? A living example.
I love it. Later on, Alexa and I spoke about how we can change our daily stressful lives and ways to decompress. And then we talked about our daily routine and how it can look like when we actually incorporate rest rituals.
For me, and I have to take my own advice, right? We all do.
Oh, yeah. But we all do.
But it's like, if I'm waiting somewhere, what do? I take out my phone. And that just stimulates your brain more. You're not resting, right? So your brain is not resting. And it's even like, if people tell me where it's like, oh, for self-care, I watch Netflix. I binge watch Netflix.
Right.
I'm like, okay, everyone likes to binge on TV sometimes, but I'm like, your brain isn't actually recharging. It's still being stimulated. You're just mindlessly watching. And while you're watching Netflix, are you also on your phone or your laptop, right? So we think we're resting, but we're not, right? So we have to be very mindful of this. So like the non-negotiable self-care daily rituals, you could make it whatever you want to make it, right? But whatever you think is going to recharge your battery.
Right.
But I do suggest, like, even if you take just multiple 5-minute breaks throughout your day to just
that involve no
do
electronics.
nothing. Yeah. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, I don't know. I just want to make it clear.
Right? Like, can you imagine no electronics? But yes, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just throughout the day. If you're in the middle of work, go take a break. Go walk outside.
Yeah.
Or
maybe it's like a hobby you like doing,
Right.
And just focus on that.
Exactly. If you like to draw, if you like to dance, if you, like I love yoga and meditation. So it's like that's my self-care thing every day, So it's making sure and you schedule it in as if you're making an appointment, right? Like
mandatory.
Yes.
I have to do it today for me.
Yes. Yes. Like actually put it in your planner. Because the same way you wouldn't cancel on your doctor, maybe you would if something comes up. But it's like, don't cancel on yourself. Like, don't cancel on yourself either.
Yeah.
We cancel on ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
So,
that's true. That's very true.
So non-negotiable. And, and then I'll have people say, but I feel like selfish doing that.
Yeah.
Or we do feel guilty. We feel like we have to do, I don't know, if we're not doing something, then we're not worthy.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's almost like we have to show up for everybody else except for ourselves.
Right. And so there's this perspective, right, that you can take where it's like, okay, when I show up for people, I want to be my best self. It's like I want to bring the energy that I, can bring 100%. But I'm not going to be able to do that if I'm not recharging, right? So in a way, it could become selfless for you to take care of yourself in these little small ways because you're thinking about other people. You're saying, well, I want to really be there for this person, right? Because it's going to be a more meaningful experience if I feel good and they, it's like you're vibing together rather than you being drained and it's like, oh, now I have to go hang out with this person, right? And it's like, it turns into, oh, I have to go do this rather than like, oh, I want to see this person, and now the experience is so much more meaningful, right? So taking care of yourself is also a domino effect
your relationships,
for everyone
right?
around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could go from being selfish to selfless, So yeah, that could help sometimes with the guilt.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Like,
You're doing it so you can also show up and be your better self to others. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Because I've definitely in the past, I've noticed myself being like, either my energy was drained or I was thinking of a million other things, so not being present.
Yes.
And my vibe was like so different. And I knew that people were not appreciating it, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good point.
Yeah, and rest is also a basic need, so
we have to do it.
We literally have to. So also that's another perspective to take where it's it is a basic need.
Awesome. Okay, so no guilt anymore. Okay, thank you, Alexa.
Of course.
Our conversation with Alexa does not end here, so stay tuned for part 2 of this interview that will get released the second Tuesday of next month. I appreciated Alexa's take on how we never really allow ourselves to truly rest, but instead we constantly keep ourselves distracted. One of the things I will implement myself is a gratitude list that will remind me that I should already feel whole without having to stay too busy all the time. After this interview, I've also made a date with myself at least once a week to spend time by myself doing things that I truly love and feed my soul. I hope that you get to find some time to restructure your own schedule and set daily rituals for self-care and rest with no guilt or judgment. To learn more about Namaste City and this podcast, please visit namastecitylife.com and feel free to drop us a message by visiting the Contact Us page. You can follow Namaste City on Instagram or Facebook and now on Wisdom. If you have not already done so, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Thanks for listening to No More Distractions by Namaste City, hosted by me, Sonia. Today's episode guest was Alexa Aliberti, and you can connect with her on her Instagram account with the username yogaholistics_. The audio production and web application services was done by Technology, spelled with a K. If you're in need of tech help like me, go to technology.works. Technology that just works. It's there for you when you need it. This episode was recorded at Sweven Podcast Studios in Hoboken, New Jersey.